All right, guys, we're going to take a look at describing function transformations. Before you do this one, again, very, very important that you understand the first transformation video that I did. You have to be very good at it. Probably did the IXL maybe 4, 5, 6, or 7, 8, 9, 10 times so that you can understand what we're talking about here, because this won't be as much detailed as that video. So again, if you haven't quite understood that, pause, go back and do that one again, and then come back to this one. But biggest thing that you need to remember is that inside is x and opposite, outside is y and regular. All right, so question is, what kind of transformation converts this graph into this graph? So what we're saying is we went from this, and now this is what we're looking at. And what kind of transformation did that? So look at your multiple choice answers and it'll give you a hint, right? So I can see this is about a translation. Is it inside or is it outside? So let's look at the difference. We went from +5 there to +8. Any other changes? No, everything is matching up. So outside is y and regular. So I went from 5 on the y-axis. So think about it for a second. I went from 5 on the y-axis. And if you don't have this sheet of paper, you can just make one up. All right, 5 from the y-axis, and I ended up at 8. So how did I go? What did happen from this? From 5 to 8, what happened? I went up 3. And you can count the number of boxes that you're going up by, especially when you're in the negatives, just to make sure that you don't make that mistake. So I went up 3. So that's a translation by 3 units up. Okay, so you're going to look at what is your original graph, what is the new change, spot the difference, and then ask yourself what happened. All right, so let's look at another one. So again, it's a transformation. So it's about either this number here or this number here changing. So looking at it, everything matches except this number here. So again, is that number inside or outside? It's outside. So if it's outside, it's y and regular. So this is the y direction. I went from -10. I started at -10 and I ended up at -4. So what happened? I went up 6 units. And again, you can just count that. So I went up 6 units. So that's the question that you keep asking. But again, you have to be very good at the rules in order to do this. All right, so again, it looks like it's just translations again. So we're looking at, did this number change or did this number change? Looking at it, everything matches except the last one. So again, this is outside. So outside is y and regular. Start at -5 on the y. And then you're going to end up at -9. So what happened? I went down. How many? Count the boxes. 4. I went down 4. All right, so again, all my answer choices are translation. So again, it's this number or this number. So spot the difference. Oh, look at this. This time it's this number. So where's that? Inside or outside? It is inside. So it went from 2 to -8 on the inside. And inside is x and what? Opposite. So starting on the x-axis, I started off at a +2, and I ended up at -8. So what did I do? I would think, remember, I would think I went left, but because it's opposite, this is really right. And how many spaces did I do it? To count this fast, again, you can count it individually. From 2 to 0 is going to be 2 boxes. From 0 to -8 is going to be 8 boxes for a total of 10. All right, so this is right 10. Just remember, x is opposite. Okay, so whatever it is, it's actually opposite of whatever you think. All right, so again, it's a translation, so we're looking at those numbers. What's the difference? Okay, so be careful with these questions because it's a translation. I know either this number at the end changed, which it didn't, or the number inside changed right here. So there's nothing here. What's the nothing for math? 0. So really what that is saying this. It's saying -4, and then it's saying x plus 0 squared minus 9, because all they did is simplify it, right? You can write that out just like this. So I went from 0 to 7. And the reason I know that is because all my answer choices are translations. I mean, the only thing that can change is either the outside -9 or the inside. All right, so in this case, the -9 doesn't change, but it does change from 0 to -7 on the inside. So on the x-axis, I'm going to start off at 0, and I'm going to end up at -7 right here. So what did I do? Left 7, but remember, inside is x and opposite, so it's not really left, it's right 7. So I'm looking for right 7. All right. So again, spot the difference. All the answer choices are translations, so I'm really looking at this number here and this number here. Let's see what the difference is. Both of them have changed, so we're doing both, and you can see that in the answer choices. All right, let's start with the number outside first. So I go from 9, which is y and regular, to 3. So on the y-axis, I go from 9 to 3. All right, so y-axis, I go from 9 to 3. What do? I'm going down 6. And again, you can just count that. So this is down 6. And then on the x-axis, I go from -3 and I go to -9. So on the x-axis, I go from -3 to -9. And what's that? You would think it's left, but remember, x is inside and opposite. So instead of it being left, it's going to be right. But how many spaces is that? 6 boxes. And again, you can count it. So I'm looking for right 6, down 6. Right 6, down 6. All right, so starting at another question. So again, what's the translation? So again, I'm just looking at these numbers here. So what changed? They both changed. I'll start with the outside. Start outside y and regular. So it goes from 6 to 2 and it's regular. So 6 to 2. So whatever you think. So that's down 4. And then on the inside, it goes from -8 to +2. So that's x and opposite. So from -8 to +2. Okay, so you think it's going right, but it's x and opposite, so it's really left. But how many spaces is this? Again, you can count that, or you can see that it's 6. So I'm going down 4, left 6. Is it not -8 to +2, not -2? Okay, I apologize. All right, so boom, to +2. All right, so this space right here is going to be 8 to 0 plus this little 2, that's 10. So you think right, but it's really opposite, so left. Left 10, down 4. Left 10, down 4. All right, so again, we're still doing translation, so we only care about these numbers right here. Okay, so -6 to +4, that's a change, and then +6 to +3, they're changing both x and y. All right, we'll start with the outside. It goes from 6 to, so y starts from 6 and it goes to 3. So what did I do? I went down 3. Okay, and then on the inside, it goes from -6 to +4. So that's x and opposite. Start at -6, go to +4. So I would think I'm going right, but remember it's opposite, so left. How many spaces? From -6 to 0 is 6. 0 to 4 is 4, so that total is 6 plus 4, which is 10. So I'm looking for down 3 and left 10. Left 10, down 3. All right, so they start you off with translations. Look like we have another one, and then they change the questions. So we're going to get real good at translations. So let's start on the outside again. +2 to -5. So start at +2 on the y to -5. So what did I do? I went down 7. Again, you count that, count the boxes, or say from 2 to 0 is 2, 0 to -5 is 5. So that's 2 and 5, which is 7. On the inside, I went from 9, so this is x and opposite, 9 to 10. So I start off at 9, and I go to 10. Okay, so again, this is x and opposite. I think go right, but that's really left. And how many spaces? 1. So I'm looking for left 1, down 7. Left 1, down 7. All right, another translation problem. So your answer choices are going to tell you what it is. So I'm looking for the changes. So I go from 3 to -6 on the outside, which is y. From 3 to -6 on the outside. So this is going to go down, because it's y and regular, what you think. Down 3 plus 6, which is 9. Or you can just count them. So down 9. And then on the inside, I go from 1 to 5. So x, I go from 1, change this color. I go from 1 to 5. So I'm going right, and it's opposite, so it's really left. And that's 4 boxes. So left 4, down 9. Down 9, down 9. Left 4, down 9. All right, perfect. So now you can see your answer choices. It's changed the questions. It's no longer translations. It's stretches and reflections. Now you got to remember what these are. So reflections are negatives, and remember negatives are opposite no matter where they are. And stretches and shrinks is multiplication. Either multiplying by a number greater than 1, or you're multiplying by a number less than 1. Greater than 1 makes the number bigger. Less than 1 makes the number smaller. So let's see what happens in terms of either negatives or multiplications. Okay, so looking at this question, let's see, spot the difference. It's the numbers stay the same, right? So you see how it's 3 and 1. those numbers stayed the same. So I didn't multiply by anything. But what has changed? I have negatives on both of these numbers. In other words, I multiplied by a negative. Now the question becomes: did I multiply just the value with the x, in other words, inside, by the negative, or did I multiply both the inside, the number with the x, and whatever's on the outside, the number by itself with a negative? So this is the whole thing. So this is going to be the y. All right. So y is the whole thing. X, or inside, is just the one with the x. So this is the whole thing got changed by a negative. So because it got changed by a negative, so you got to think negative y, right? So it's going to be a flip. You would think that it's a flip over the y because you changed all of it, right, which is the y. But negatives are opposite no matter what they are. So it's a flip over the x. So flip over the x. Negatives are opposite no matter where they are. Okay. All right. So again, here are my options. Did I multiply the number, stretches and shrinks, or did I change all the negatives and positives? Okay, reflections. So looking at the numbers again, this is 10. This is still 10. This is 1. This is still 1. So I didn't multiply. So it's got to be about reflections. Now look at it. What changed? Did this change? This, yep, it went from positive to negative. Did this change? It went from negative. Yes. So they both changed. That means y changed. Okay. So if only one of them changed, that's the one with the x, it's just the inside. If both of them change, it's all of it, it's the y, because it's outside. All right, so y changed. So again, negatives are opposite no matter where you are. You think you flip it over the y because it's a y change. However, negatives are opposite no matter where they are, so it's a reflection over the x-axis. All right, so again, my answer choices: did I multiply the numbers or did I just change the signs? Okay, so looking at my two choices, I went from negative to positive and positive to negative. So I changed the signs. All right, the numbers did not multiply or shrink. So that's fine. So it's going to be either reflection across y or x. Now the question is, did only one of the signs change, the x one, or did both of them change? So if it's both, it's y. If it's just the one with the x, it's just x, it's inside. So it looks like that changed to a positive and that changed to a negative. So both of them change. It's the whole thing. So you think it's a reflection over the y, but negatives are opposite no matter what. So it's a reflection over the x. All right, so again, same kind of problem. Let's look at what changed. This time the signs stayed exactly the same, so it's not reflections. We're talking about vertical, shrink, and stretch. So remember, vertical is y, so and y is what you think. So if it's a y shrink, I multiply by a number smaller than 1. If it's a y stretch, I multiply by a number greater than 1. So what did I do? If I went from 8 to 4, what did I multiply by? Did the number get bigger or did it get smaller? It got smaller because it went from 8 to 4 and it went from 6 to 3. So I multiplied by 1/2. So that means that it's a vertical shrink. So be careful. Do not think in terms of I divided by 2. Think multiply by 1/2. All right, so again, either horizontal. So this is about it being inside. And remember, it's opposite. So inside, did I multiply? Or that means not all the numbers. Or did I change the sign? So let's look at it. What happened? So boom, 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 boom. All right, looks like the sign stayed the same, but it looks like this changed right here, right? See that? This outside did not change, which means that makes sense because if the outside changed, I should see vertical, right? But there's no vertical, so it's definitely horizontal. It's not reflections because the signs, both of them stayed the same. It's a horizontal stretch or shrink. Now, what happened? So I went from 2 to invisible 1, right? So what do you think happens there? Did I multiply by a number less than 1 to go from 2 to invisible 1? Or did I multiply by a number greater than 1? So 2 times something gives me 1. That means times a half. So I multiply by a number less than 1. So I would think shrink, but because it's x, it's opposite. So it's got to be. All right, so what happens to this? So again, look at my options. Did the signs change, or vertical means y? Did y multiply by a number? All right, so let's look at it. Did the signs change? No, all the signs look the same except for what? This one changed, right? So this one changed, so a sign changed. Did the numbers multiply? No, they didn't. They stayed the same. So that's the difference, is a sign changed. Where did the sign change? All right, it changed on only the inside, right? So if it's only on the inside that it changed, you would think that it's x and opposite, right? So you would think it's a flip over the x, but remember, negatives are opposite wherever they are, so it's really a flip over the y. So you just got to be careful with flips. They're opposite of whatever you think. All right, so again, looking at my answer choices, did the numbers multiply or did the signs change? Those are my two options. So looking at this, what happened? So the numbers look the same, so it didn't stretch or shrink. So it's either a reflection on the y, reflection on the x. It's just opposite no matter what you think. So let's look at the signs. So it changed from positive to negative and negative to positive. So both of them changed. So remember, when all of it changes, it's the y. So you would think flip over the y, but negatives are opposite no matter where they are. So it's flip over the x. All right, again, looking at my answer choices, did the numbers multiply just on the inside or did the signs change? So let's look at the differences. I can immediately see that the signs are the same, right? So this is a plus plus, a minus minus. So it's not going to be these. It's either going to be a vertical shrink or vertical stretch. And just remember, this is rewritten as a factor, okay? So look at this out here is invisible 1, and here is also plus 1. And those numbers change from invisible 1 to 9 and plus 1 to positive 9. So what did I multiply by on just the outside, because nothing changed on the inside? What did I multiply by to go from 1 to 9? I multiplied by 9. Did that number make something bigger or smaller? I made it bigger. In which direction? The y direction, because it's outside. And y and regular, what you think. So bigger in the y direction. All right, so again, looking at my answer choices, did the signs change or did I multiply by something? So looking at this 9 is still here, but it changed the sign. This is the same, and this changed the sign. So it looked like I changed the signs only where? On the outside. So if I change on the outside, it's y and regular. All right, if I change the signs, I multiply by a negative, right? You think it's a reflection over the y-axis because it's on the outside, but negatives are opposite no matter where they are, so it's a reflection over the x-axis. All right, what kind of transformation does that? So again, okay, looking at this, we're back to translation. So remember, translations are the numbers at the very end. So -7 to +7. Did anything else change? No. So this is the number on the outside. The y changed from -7 to +7. So from -7 to +7. So I'm going up 7 plus another 7 is 14. So I'm going up 14, but that answer isn't there. So that means then I'm doing a combination of both, because you can rewrite something as a multiple times. I can get from one point to another two different ways. Like going from my room to the cafeteria, you can come out, take a left, and it's a straight shot. Or you can decide to go by the AP's office, go all the way around, come back, and then go. So there are different ways of getting to the same spot. If the way you're getting there is not in your answer choices, just look at the answer choices and use those options. Okay, so it looks like they want me to do 2 units right or left, and then 6 up or down. Okay, so we're going to look at what possibility is going to give us that. Okay, so if you look in your notebook on example 4, it says if it's not obvious, so obviously that wasn't it, right? It's not one of my answer choices. What you want to do is use your answers right here to perform the transformations to that equation to see what you get. Okay, so there are 2 ways that we can do this. We can do this algebraically or by graph. I'm going to choose to do it by graph. And then I'm going to show you as well how to do it on decimals when you get here. So when you get here, it's faster to use decimals than it is to do it by hand, but everything up to here is faster to do it by hand. So let's graph this equation. So what does this mean? Y equals mx plus b. So my start is at -7. So if I put a point at -7, so point at -7, and what's my slope? So there isn't rise over run. So I'm rising 4 and then running what? Invisible 1. So rise 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, run invisible 1. And I'm just going to put another point just to make sure. So rise 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, run invisible 1. All right, go ahead and join those 2 up as best as you can. So if you're doing this on paper, you're just kind of rough sketching it, right? All right, so boom. All right, so that's my first one. Then on my second one, Oh, that's pretty cool. Let's change the number. So it goes from that line, that's my first line, and then it goes to this next line. My start on my next line is what? Positive 7. So I start at positive 7, and I'm going to do what to it? What does rise mean? Rise 4 and run invisible 1, right? So rise 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right, run invisible 1. So right here. All right. So again, you can just rough sketch it, because once you rough sketch it, you kind of have a rough idea of what you're doing. Boom. All right, let me move this ruler. So what happened? So let's imagine this was the point I started with, right? How would I get here? So we're going to use our answer choices. All right, would I go to the right? So to get here, would I go to the right? Am I getting closer to the graph that way? No, so I'm not going to go right at all. So these are my two answer choices right here. So I'm going to go 2 units to the left. So let's see. I'm going to go 2 units to the left, 1, 2, right? And then I have the option, so once I go left, to either go 6 down or 6 up. If I go down, am I going to hit the graph? No. So I need to go what? Up. So let's go 6 up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Boom. I get right on the graph. So left 2, up 6 is going to be my answer. To double check this answer, because now you have to do some work, right? Because it's not obvious, it's not the answer choice. Because it's a multiple choice, they're restricting you. So instead of you doing this work, I'm going to show you how to, you could just put that right into Desmos and go from there. So pull up Desmos when it gets to your answer choice is not there. Desmos. And what you're going to do is you're going to copy and paste your first equation. And you can copy the whole thing, actually, it doesn't matter. Into one box. All right, so copy your first equation to one box and make sure it copies, so that one did. And then your second equation into the other box. And again, you can kind of see, right? How do I move from one point to the other? So you can use Desmos to do this for you. Did I go, so here's the graph I start off with. Do I go right to get to this line? I don't, so it's left. So the only two options are left. Then think about a point. So pick a point anywhere, right here. How do I get this point to this other graph? All right, so if I go left to, let's pick a better point. Let's pick, can't really find a good point, but anyway, if I go left to, right, how do I get to the graph? Do I go up? Or you see, up goes the graph, but if I go down, it does not go to the graph. So again, you can use Desmos to sketch this part right here, right, and then just kind of intuitively use your answer choices to pick your correct answer. So okay, so again, looking at just the answer choices, did you multiply, because that's a stretch and shrink. What did I multiply to get the next one? So looking at the differences, looks like I multiply 5 by something to get 10 and 3 by something to get 6. You can see I multiplied by 2. And what did I multiply? Just the outside. So it's a vertical stretch by scale factor of 2. So what did I put? Vertical stretch. I must have clicked the wrong thing. Yes, so it's a vertical stretch by a scale factor of 2. All right, so moving on, I gotta get back up there. So that's okay, I get to practice some more questions. All right, just be careful with what you're clicking. All right, so again, looking at this, it's either I multiplied to get these two, or I changed the signs to get these two. So let's look at the difference. It looks like I'm changing the signs. It goes from positive to a negative, and then a positive to a negative. So I'm changing on the outside, right? So that's, you would think flip it over the y, but it's really opposite, so flip it over the x. So I'm going to do these a little bit faster just so I can get back up to 90 really quickly, okay? All right, so again, what changed? I went from -8 to -10, okay? So -8 to -10, I went down, and you can see that's not an option, right? So this is one of the ones where if yours is not an option, there's a different way of getting there. So again, you pull out your calculator, or you can do it by hand, but we've agreed that you can pull out your calculator, copy and paste the first equation, copy and paste the second equation if your answer choice is not there, which mine is not because it was 2. All right, so these are your two answers, and then look at how you get from one point to another by doing this. So let's see if I can squeeze it in here. All right, cool. You start on green, you end up at purple. So start at green, pick a point, a nice point like that one, okay? And how do I get to purple? By doing this. So if I go one left, do I get to purple? No. If I go one down, so is this going up? This is going down by 1, yeah. So if I go one down, do I get a purple? No. If I go one right, do I get a purple? I do. So that's the question. All right. So if your answer choice is not there, it doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means that that's not the answer choice they're looking for, because there are multiple paths of, going there. Because I could have gone down. This is what I was saying, go down 2, right? But that's not one of the answer choices. So you're going to just use the calculator to perform it to see what happens. Or you can do it by hand, but the calculator is faster. All right, so same thing here. It looks like we're translating only. Let's see if it's quick without a calculator, real quick. Yep, the only number that changes is the inside. It goes from positive 3 to 2, right? So if you look back on the number line, positive 3 to 2, you think go left 1, but opposite is right 1. So that one is there, so I don't need a calculator. So we're only using the calculator one for the answer choices that don't match to us. All right, what kind of transformation is this to this? All right, so what changed? The plus 10 completely disappeared. So it went from plus 10 to plus 0. So it goes from 10 outside y to 0. So it goes down 10. All right, what changes here? So this is about, did I multiply for the stretch and shrink, or did I change the signs for the flips? So looking at it, it looks like the only thing that changed is this went from a positive to a negative. That means I changed the sign, so it's a reflection. All right, inside is x and opposite. So opposite of what you think it's supposed to be x, but it's really opposite, so flip over y. All right, so again, translation. So this is about one number changing. So let's see if we can just use the shortcut. So we have looks like the only difference is this. So it goes from negative 6 on the x, negative 6 on the x, negative 6 on the x, and then it ends up at positive 1 on the x still, and nothing else changed. Yeah. So that means I went right 7, 6 to 0, and then one more. So I went right 7. So this is really left 7 because it's x and opposite. All right. So again, it's faster to do it by hand for some questions, but if your answer choice isn't there, you might have to use a calculator, or you can still use a sheet of paper. All right, so looking at this is just moving up and down translation. So let's look at the differences. This is changed and nothing else. So it went from negative 4 in x to positive 4 in x. So negative 4 in x to positive 4 in x. So what did I do? I moved right 8. So 4 to 0 and then 4 again. Right 8 and opposite is what? Left. So left 8. Again, only if your answer choice isn't there are you doing more work. Perfect. Okay. All right. So go ahead and rewatch this video as many times as you need to watch so that you can kind of make sure that you understand it. And let's practice.